Brand. Really excited to have a podcast today. We're going to be diving into a couple of different topics. The big one here is going to be bloating. One of the big root causes of bloating. We're going to talk about it from a biochemical, functional medicine perspective. Evan, how are we doing, man? What's going on, brother?
Doing pretty well. Excited to dive in, talk about gut infections. I think that's probably the first place to start, just because you and I have run thousands of
Hmm.
urinary organic acids and genetic stool tests over the years. And years ago, we used to use 3-day stool tests. Now, with technology improvements, we could do 1 day, one sample stool test, and we can uncover so much. So I'll just kind of riff on things. I know we like to title things just for marketing purposes and call it top five, but we may go into 15 by the time we're done, because just right off the top of my head here, high gut inflammation like calprotectin may be an issue, low pancreatic enzyme function, bacterial overgrowth, where we're going to measure the dysbiosis, H. pylori infections, parasites, worms, specifically Clostridia and Candida can cause a lot of issues with bloating. So, in general, I would just say any gut infection, but we can break that down as much as you want to. It could be a huge cause of bloating. And the problem is this: when you go to a conventional medical doctor or a gastroenterologist and you get some sort of bloating remedy or some sort of digestive aid, maybe an acid blocker or antispasmodic medication, obviously these are not addressing these infections. You could take acid blockers for the rest of your life and never clear the H. pylori that's driving the low stomach acid, which then drives the fermentation in the gut, which then drives the bloating. So I just want people to have in their heads a clear mindset of, what are you taking, and is it actually fixing the problem, or are you just masking your symptoms? And in the case of an acid blocker, you're actually putting yourself deeper in the hole, because you're taking low stomach acid that's driving heartburn or an infection, and you're making it worse.
100%. So, the first catalyst for good digestion is a nice low pH, that good acid pH. We need good hydrochloric acid to make that happen. So, we need essentially hydrogen ions to bind to chloride in our gut. And so we need chloride from minerals. So we need good minerals, good quality sea salt. That helps make stomach acid on our own. Now, if we're under a lot of stress and our adrenal glands are in stress overdrive, could be cortisol high or low imbalances, as well as adrenaline issues, right? Could be high or low cortisol stress issues. That could put us in a fight or flight state. And that sympathetic nervous system stimulus is going to negatively impact our body's ability to start with making stomach acid and digestive secretions. And of course, that stomach acid is almost like an antimicrobial. Think of like using lemon or apple cider vinegar as a natural cleaner, right? They recommend these online. You can make natural cleaners. Usually there's some kind of acid as the foundation of the formula, because acids are antimicrobial. And so think of acids in your intestinal tract as being antimicrobial. They also kind of help tighten the sphincter, the esophageal sphincter from the stomach into the esophagus. It gets tightened with good acidity. And so part of the reason why we get bloating and a lot of these gases rise up to the esophagus is inadequate levels of acidity. And that keeps the esophagus open. And then what happens when that esophagus is open over time, the fermentation acids that occur can actually eventually irritate the bottom of the esophagus, because we didn't have enough acids to trigger that good closure in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. So then you'll get these what are called silent reflux issues. Sometimes it's called GERD. And once again, prescription drugs are what's the common remedy, but once again, it's not root cause. It may reduce the symptoms, because if you have that backwash, it's going to help slow the backwash down, but it's not going to fix that sphincter. So we might come in with extra betaine hydrochloric acid, or if you're extremely inflamed, which is rare that someone can't tolerate a low dose of it, but then we could do something like apple cider vinegar with a meal. Sometimes bitters. I personally don't do bitters. I just do HCl and enzymes.
Yeah, we can always test it with ginger. We can always test it with an acid like lemon, lime, or apple cider vinegar. Start with a teaspoon of that mixed in a couple ounces of water, and then kind of work our way up from there. So acidity is a really important first step. Of course, if we have inefficient acidity levels, we can almost guarantee we're probably going to have poor enzyme levels and probably going to have poor bile acid levels, right? Bile acids are important because they help break down fat. And bile acids are also slightly acidic, right? In the name bile acid. And it's also antimicrobial. So just like we talked about the acids having an antimicrobial benefit on the HCl side, bile acids also have an antimicrobial benefit. And we see in SIBO, a hallmark of SIBO is bile acid insufficiency. And so with SIBO, we don't have enough acids there on the bile side. So then we have a harder time breaking down fat. And then a lot of times that fat will create indigestion, putrefaction, because it's not being broken down. Now, when we run certain stool tests, we'll see increases in a metabolite called steatocrit, which is a breakdown of the fat. That means it's not being broken down in the stomach. It's coming out at higher levels, which means we're not breaking it down. So steatocrit's a big deal because steatocrit, if we don't have good fat digestion, we probably have some protein digestion issues. We probably have some enzyme and acid issues, and we probably have some gas issues, some bloating issues, because these things require good digestion. And if they're not being broken down well, we're probably getting some methane or hydrogen gases kind of rising up from that.
And we're talking on the subject of bloating, but it's very common that someone with these issues you're describing, they're also going to have issues with energy and probably mood, like anxiety or depression, because you're mentioning this issue with fat digestion, protein digestion. Now you're not going to get the aminos that you need to fuel your neurotransmitters. So it's very rare that somebody's going to come to us and say, "Hey, I'm just bloated and I have nothing else." Usually, along with that bloating, you're going to have these tangential symptoms too, like anxiety, depression, fatigue. And so I encourage people, you can focus on one smoking gun, like bloating, as your big thing you're coming in for, but you got to make sure you understand there's a bigger, deeper connection to your mood issues too. So this is the person who's on brain. Someone just commented about severe brain fog. We could hit that too, but somebody might come in and say, "Hey, I'm bloated," and then you tease apart their case and you go, "Oh, okay, so you're actually anxious too. You're on an antidepressant and an acid blocker." And this happens every day, all day. So just to clarify, number one, we hit low stomach, or we hit infections first. Number two, low stomach acidity. You mentioned low bile in the gallbladder. Also, let's give a shout out to people that don't have a gallbladder. What about these poor
Yeah.
people? They're going to need a lot of supplemental
Yep.
help for the rest of their life. And so, unfortunately, this is a very, very common procedure done in the US where the gallbladder is removed. And so these people are going to need some purified bile salts forever, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And then
What's your
again,
opinion?
oh, absolutely. They're going to definitely need bile salts and some extra enzymes like lipase. But again, you got to get to the reason, why did that gallbladder issue even happen? Now, most people, it's women in their 40s who have an overweight issue. And so, what tends to be driving that is usually food allergens, whether it's grains or inflammatory foods, but also estrogen dominance. So, if you have an imbalance in estrogen, estrogen is going to help promote more fat storage. So, you obviously you have more estrogen, more fat storage. A lot of times, you're going to have PMS issues too. So you may be moody, irritable, um, sleep issues. You could have fibrocystic breast issues, tenderness, a lot of pain around PMS time. So you got to get to the root cause of that as well. So we started out with just bloating, but you can see how then this estrogen issue can affect bile levels and good bile flow, because estrogen causes everything to get really stagnant and not flow well. And then you start having mood issues and PMS issues and maybe even fertility issues. So you can see how you start at one point, which is bloating, which is the topic of the video, but then it can spiral down these other kind of tangential pathways.
Yeah, not to mention too, let's just say it started out with heartburn. I just want people to kind of visualize this. So let's say it starts out with heartburn. You go to Target and you buy Prilosec, which is over-the-counter acid blocker medication. You reduce your stomach acid even more, but you feel some relief from the heartburn. And let's say your spouse had H. pylori. You guys pass that between each other. So now you've got even more reduction of stomach acid levels. You're on the acid blocking medication. Now you're anxious. You're starting to get depressed, you're getting a bit fatigued. As you mentioned, now you're getting some hormonal issues, some hormonal symptoms like breast tenderness or PMS or irritability. You've got this dysbiosis growing in your gut. So you have this bacterial infection. It could be multiple things: strep, staph, Klebsiella, Pseudomonas, Morganella. And now you've got beta glucuronidase issues. Now you're recirculating all this estrogen. You're creating more problems with the gallbladder. Maybe you get the gallbladder removed. Now you're in really big trouble. Then that leads to the diet. So then you read some guy on the internet who says you need to be doing 70 to 80% vegetables. So now you're doing all these veggies and you're even more bloated and you're even more gassy and you don't know why. So you're hitting broccoli. You're trying to force all these leafy greens down, a lot of raw vegetables. Maybe you're doing a lot of avocado, these higher FODMAP foods that are fermenting in the gut. This is a case where you've got to really, to me, the best, most beneficial thing I've seen for these cases, get the diet very simple, focus on good quality animal proteins, and for a time being, minimize your vegetables so that you can let the gut rest.
Yeah, absolutely. From a solution standpoint, yeah, good proteins, good fats, and then if we're going to do vegetables, Make sure they're cooked, steamed, sauteed, maybe use an instant pot and try to make sure they're on the lower fermentable side. Now, that being said, next, what's another driving factor of bloating? Increase in fermentable vegetables. Now, people are hearing all kinds of things about probiotics being helpful. Well, they are. There's a lot of good benefits to probiotics and the microbiome and the endogenous nutrients they produce. They, whether it's vitamin K2, whether it's different B vitamins, really helpful. It also produces acidity, which helps keep a lot of bugs and bacteria from growing in the gut. Totally helpful. Now, if you already have a lot of bacterial overgrowth and bad bugs growing, sometimes these extra good bacteria can actually cause more bloating, more gas. And then, of course, because they're fermentable, they can also create histamine too. So the histamine may create more brain fog, headaches, more disruption there. So you may have more histamine symptoms. You may have more motility issues because they're producing hydrogen, methane gases, maybe, and that may cause either diarrhea on one side or maybe more constipation on the other side. Definitely possible.
Yeah, yeah, good call on the histamine. And so some of these bacteria in your gut, they're going to be releasing histamine too. So if you're combining high histamine foods, you're doing leftovers, let's say last night you made a steak, you're cooking that leftover protein, that's going to be higher histamine combined with the histamine being produced from this bacterial overgrowth problem. Yeah, you mentioned brain fog, skin flushing, rashes. So once again, here we are talking about bloating, but we're trying to elucidate this big spider web of other symptoms that may be going on.
Correct.
Also, what about a a stress component, meaning someone just simply not chewing enough, they're rushing through their meals? I mean, I think just from a
Yeah.
mechanical perspective,
Yep.
if you look at your average person, I mean, I saw somebody on the highway the other day. I don't know if it was a donut, a piece of pizza, it was some kind of junk. I couldn't tell exactly what it was, but either way, there's still people trying to do makeup, scrolling on their smartphone, eating a piece of pizza, all while driving on the highway at the same time. And we wonder why they have digestive problems. So maybe you talk about the impact of not being settled when you're eating and this sort of
Oh,
like
totally.
this parasympathetic process that digestion is supposed to be. Our ancestors, they didn't have that level of stimulation while they were trying to eat. I mean, maybe there was a wolf trying to come get their bison kill, but beyond that, there wasn't this big sympathetic stress underneath all of our meal times.
Yeah, we kind of started out the video talking about the parasympathetic sympathetic balance and how important that is because the parasympathetic is part of that rest and digest that gets the digestive secretion going. It stimulates all the blood flow into the organs, into the intestines. So, of course, setting really good boundaries for your meal. I recommend kind of go into a meal 5 or 10 minutes, just kind of relax, do some deep breathing, have some appreciation about your day, the food in front of you, just whatever blessings you have in your life. Just try to really get into that parasympathetic state with just good breathing in the nose, right? 4 or 5 nasal breaths in and out. Focus on whatever's good in your life, appreciation, what you want to manifest, whatever you have to do, whatever kind of resonates, prayer to put you in that state where you just feel better. And then go into that meal, keep it quiet. Or if you want to listen to something that kind of allows you to feel good and feel rested or relaxed, that's fine. And then go into that meal and make sure you chew your food really well. Try to avoid a lot of hydration with the food. A couple ounces of water for swallowing some pills or digestive support's fine. But try to go into that meal like I just had to have a good routine, get some good hydration ahead of time, try to go into some kind of a meditation or prayer for 5 or 10 minutes ahead of time to really get that parasympathetics going, and then go into your meal. And then really just try to chew things up pretty well too. About 30 chews per bite of food on average. Kind of get your food chewed up to about an oatmeal like consistency. So it's really broken down well. That will allow the enzymes and the acids to work a lot better too.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is a lot of people are kind of pressured into these business meetings, like with their boss or with their coworkers. There's this like work meeting lunch deal where people are going out with people they probably wouldn't associate with outside of the workplace, and they're going and eating with those people. And so I would just tell you, if you don't like it and that's not your vibe, don't do it. If you feel more comfortable and more relaxed eating by yourself, don't do it. I mean, I remember I've had some stressful conversations over lunch and dinner tables before with people over the years, and I leave feeling like I didn't eat anything. And that my mind was so focused on, even if it wasn't a negative conversation, if it was on some sort of business deal or the state of the world or something, and then I'm eating, I would get up from the table. I'm like, oh crap, did I eat? And I didn't process that. So I know it sounds maybe like unnecessary advice, but I think a lot of people need to be picky about what they talk about at the dinner table.
Yeah, I think anything that's going to keep you in that parasympathetic state is great. Save the more stressful things either before or after. And I think also just have good boundaries. Try to make sure you get at least 20 minutes for a meal to yourself. I mean, if you don't have 20, if you can't put 20 minutes in your schedule for you to consume some good food and put yourself in that parasympathetic states, then you got some boundary issues and you got to really work on roping in your schedule and getting some control over it, at least so you have that 15, 20 minutes to yourself and you can really process that food well. And again, I'm not saying there won't be some exceptions or some stressful days here or there, but on average, try to make sure 80 to 90% of the time you really have control over your schedule to that degree.
One of my favorite things to do, even in the wintertime here, if I've got blue skies, I'm taking my shirt off. I'm going to sit on my front porch where I've got a nice, comfy front porch patio chair, and
Hmm.
that chair is warmed up by the sun. So I'll just take my shirt off, sit there barefoot in the chair, and eat my bison burger for lunch. And the sunlight is a mast cell stabilizer. So I noticed the sun helps me if I have any kind of food reactions. The sun will stabilize that. Obviously, there's nitric oxide benefits. There's likely some nervous system benefits, some circadian rhythm benefits. So for me, if you can get fresh air on your lunch, that's great. And what the heck does sunshine have to do with bloating? Well, I mean, there's even some studies on sunlight improving the diversity of your gut, and we're
Wow.
inside all the time now. So if you just type in like sunlight microbiome, you can read the papers on this. This is in a microbiology journal about how exposure to the UV rays can improve the gut diversity. So it's no surprise that all these people in offices buildings all day, they've got poor diversity, obviously from other things, but lack of sunshine is a negative factor for your gut health.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, also there's other bugs that are out there. I think we already kind of talked about H. pylori because that can affect the stomach and that can decrease acid production. And thus, when acid production's down, we know enzyme production is also down. And then that can also affect biliary function, bile function. So we know H. pylori is a big thing. Other bugs can be problematic, right? We already mentioned SIBO, which could be a whole bunch of different bacterial that are overgrown in the small intestine. That could be Citrobacter prevotella, Klebsiella, Pseudomonas, Morganella, right? It doesn't really matter the actual bugs, but if there's an overgrowth there, they can definitely disrupt digestion, create different gases on the methane and hydrogen side, and that can create obviously more bloat. Other parasites can cause problems too. So we see things like Blastocystis hominis, right? Ehisto, D. fragilis, Giardia, Cryptosporidium. These are all other bugs that can be problematic. And then even things like fungal overgrowth, Candida overgrowth, whether it's a Rhodotorula species, albicans species, these types of imbalances can cause problems. So it's good to test and really make sure that we look at the whole microbiome and see what's out of balance or not. And then from there, food wise, I mean, of course, just general refined sugar, refined grains, right? These, processed foods, excess fiber, lots of raw vegetables, fermentable carbohydrates, right? These things are going to be on the list as well. And so we'll kind of add those there. There's a lot of different things that we have to look at. So I kind of gave you the top 5 or 6 on this list. Anything else, Evan, you want to add to it?
Well, I would just say that if you're coming into this conversation, you're listening, maybe you don't have much background in listening to people like you and I talk functional medicine strategy. Some of this may just go right over your head. You may just tune out because you're hearing these things which sound exotic and they sound rare, like H. pylori. I don't have that. Giardia. What the heck is that? Blasto. I don't have that. I just have bloating. The reality is these are very, very common things. The problem is the testing that's used in the conventional gastroenterology world is very outdated and very insensitive, meaning there's a lot of infections that go missed. And even if these infections are tested for, it's not likely that you're going to find an accurate result. And so, what we're talking about, these are not rare situations. You and I, between us both, we've seen several thousand clients and patients across the world over the last decade. And we can tell you that these issues are something we see every day, all day. So much so that, in fact, when I see a whole big list of infections on the stool test, I don't get shocked by it. It's like, yep, that's it. That's what we've got. So if you're listening to this and you're like, man, that's not me. I'm just bloated and tired. Well, there's a reason for that. And so I highly recommend you get tested, figure out what the heck you got going on, because if you're not testing, you're guessing. And if you're going and taking probiotics or random enzymes and you don't feel better, or you're confused about what you should actually be taking and not taking, and you're building up a supplement graveyard, it's time for you to get tested and figure out what the heck you're up against. And so if you need help, you can reach out clinically. Dr. J is at justinhealth.com. You can reach out and do consults worldwide. So we jump on a video call just like we're doing here, Zoom, FaceTime, Skype. We can look at your labs that you run at home, and we can figure out what's going on and make you a game plan to get better. And if you need help, for me, it's evanbrand.com. And either one of us, Dr. J, Justin Health, Evan, evanbrand.com, we're here to help you. And the cool thing is you can reverse these issues and you can get to a point where you don't even recognize your gut health. I mean, if I look back at myself, even 10 years ago, I had such severe IBS. I did every diet under the sun and I made some progress, but it wasn't until I looked at my gut that I really made the magic happen.
100%. And so just to kind of highlight a couple of things out of the gates, we'll put some links below as well to some of the lab tests that we recommend, whether it's the stool testing, whether it's the organic acid testing, which does look at bacterial and yeast metabolites. I love the organic acid because it's very good at picking up candida and yeast overgrowth, where a lot of times the stool testing will miss that. And of course, the breath test will not touch any yeast overgrowth. So it's nice to have, whether it's a stool test, whether it's the GI map, whether it's an organic acid, whether it's a conventional lactulose breath test. These are all good tests. We'll put links down below, so if you guys want to look at getting some of those to start out of the gates, you feel free, you can. Also, I like to compare and contrast like what we do versus the conventional gastroenterologist. So most gastro docs, they're just trying to rule out significant pathology, significant disease. And so they may cross off the list by doing some kind of an endoscopy, which is camera down the mouth to look at inflammation in the stomach or the esophagus. And if they see esophagitis or gastritis, then you know what they're going to do. They're going to recommend some type of PPI or Gaviscon or some types of like a coating agent to kind of help reduce the inflammation, but they're not going to really fix the root cause. Most of the time, they pull you off acids, which may be helpful in the short run, but it's forever altering your ability to break down protein or fat. And it also can shift your bugs in a negative direction because now you don't have the good acidity to keep the microbes down. You need the acidity to activate enzymes. You need the acidity to activate your bile salts. So someone's jumping in on the questions here saying that, hey, they feel better on keto, but now they're feeling more constipated. Yeah, super common because what's happening is you're cutting out a lot of the foods that are causing problems, but you haven't fixed your digestion. You don't have enough acidity, enzymes, bile. There may be some bugs that are still impacting digestion. And this is why being on good proteins and fats can be helpful, but they also reveal weak links in your digestive chain if you're not breaking down food well. So just kind of getting back on the gastro doc kind of bandwagon, they're going to be looking at pathology, inflammation in the stomach, ruling out the big things like blood in the ulceration in the stomach. Usually you're going to know that because you're coughing it up or you're seeing it in your stool. If you have irritable bowel disease symptoms like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, usually you're going to have significant inflammation in the stomach, usually significant diarrhea, blood in the stool. They're going to rule that out. And then what? And then for the most part, once the big pathology things, ulcerations, cancer, massive amounts of inflammation are ruled out, they're going to typically give you like an IBS diagnosis, whether it's IBS-D for diarrhea or IBS C for constipation, and they're going to just manage whatever those symptoms are with different drugs. So if it's constipation, they'll use laxatives. If it's diarrhea, they'll use things like Imodium or Pepto-Bismol or anti-inflammatories. They'll just try to modulate the symptoms with drugs, and that's it. And they're not going to really get to the root cause. They're going to just try to spot treat. And then that's where people come to us because over time, those drugs become less and less effective. You have more and more side effects. You're not fixing digestion. You're creating more nutritional deficiencies, maybe more gut permeability issues, maybe more autoimmune stuff. And so these patients then come to us because they're just tired of putting Band-Aids over Band-Aids over Band-Aids.
Yeah, well said. I forgot to mention the endoscope procedure. That is super common. They wanted to do that on me years ago when I had IBS, and I denied that because even back then, I had read about these infections that people were acquiring from getting scoped, meaning the last person that they put the tube down, they didn't properly clean or sanitize that. So then they stick it down your throat, and then you leave the hospital just to investigate. And as you said, the only thing that's going to come out of that is they may say gastritis, which is super generic. It doesn't tell you anything about these infections, and they're not going to give you an herbal protocol to address the infections causing the gastritis. But now you've left the hospital with Clostridia or some other possibly antibiotic resistant infection that's evolved to evade the sterilizing and cleaning procedures. So I'm all about non-invasive, accurate functional medicine testing, and that's why we love what we do, because there's very rare, maybe one every 5 years, is there a case where I'm like, yeah, you need an endoscopy because there's something crazy here.
Yeah, usually with a endoscope or colonoscopy, which is going to be going up the rectum to look in the colon, usually there's got to be blood in the stool, some type of significant inflammation, whether it's excessive diarrhea, excessive inflammation, excessive blood in the stool, excessive weight loss. It has to be at the extreme ends for that to make sense. Most people just have inflammation, and a lot of times the test won't kind of tell you enough about the root cause. They're just going to put you on medications to manage the symptoms, and that's where you're kind of stuck in between. Now, a lot of my ulcerative colitis IBD patients, they've already done that. And
Yeah.
so then it's like, all right, they've kind of already crossed that off their list. Any weird cancers, ulcers, it's already done. They know they're just being managed with Lialda, prednisone, a biologic, and then it's like, now what, right? And so we still have to get to the root cause of that and get the immune system chilled out and figure out what stressors are there so we can get on top of that too.
Yeah, I mean, I know you and I have seen countless emails being sent to us with pictures of colons and, different things from these
Yep.
scopes. Like, hey, here's my scope results. What do you have to say about it? And the answer is always the same. Okay, there's something there. Let's work on the infections. And so, yeah, someone in the chat, Shelly said yes, that they all recommended me every time I go to the doctor. So, yeah, I mean, that's all they've got. They don't have the stuff that we're using. Maybe in 20 years from now, you can go right down the street and get done what we're talking about. But for now, you've got to seek out somebody like us that's going to be able to help you. There's one person in the chat too asking about viral impact on the gut. It's real. I did a whole section of that in my Better Belly course about that virus in the gut, and so it's a big factor.
Yeah, and just to kind of speak kind of on the line here, so we don't get censored. There's certain viruses that are out there, right? There's an ACE2 receptor site that gets impacted in these different viruses, and the ACE2 receptor site, there are a lot of them in the gut, and these receptor sites are really important for absorbing amino acids. And so, if you have any of these maybe chronic viral issues, one of the good things that you can do is actually extra free form amino acids to allow these receptor sites to absorb these amino acids easier, right? Think of free-form amino acids, they're already broken down. So if we have this chronic immune stress and you're having a hard time recovering from the immune stress, adding in some additional free-form amino acids can be very, very helpful on the healing side.
Yeah, I've seen a lot, and there's papers on this too, but I've seen it clinically too. People post virus that will look at their stool. There's gut inflammation. There's low secretory IgA, so we can see there's been some damage, and so we have been able to resolve it. So yeah, we'll wrap this thing up. But if you all need help, please reach out clinically. We mentioned the websites one more time. Dr. J, it's Justin at justinhealth.com, me, evanbrand.com, and we're here to help you guys. So you can reach out, and we'll get to the bottom of this.
And sometimes we'll even use some kind of an elemental diet with people that have chronic digestive issues, just because it can be hard breaking protein and fat down. And these are really good, important nutrients, but sometimes we just got to break it down for them. And using some kind of an elemental or a modified elemental, where maybe you make the first 4 to 6 hours of the day really easy to process in some kind of a smoothie or a shake that has most of the amino acids in a free form, maybe the fats more easy to process, like in an MCT oil or something like that. And then we use a lot of the vitamins and minerals all broken down. That can be very helpful and give the digestive system a chance to rest. And some people, they notice this because they just feel really good when they fast. And so if you fast and you feel really good, that's excellent, but you're still not fixing the problem of getting nutrients in the system. So that's where using some kind of an elemental type of shake can be really helpful.
Yeah, well said. Well, I'm done. I feel like we covered a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I mean, someone asked one question about flour substitutes. It just depends on where someone's at. So flour, it's a processed food. So out of the gates, if someone wants like a starch, I recommend maybe a greener banana, maybe yucca, cassava, maybe a kaboka spaghetti squash. Just look at some of the fibers, non-starch, or I should say more starchy carbohydrates that are going to be grain-free. See how you do with that. And then if you want like an actual flour, you can look at like an arrowroot, or you can look at like a cassava, are pretty good because it's still grain-free, but it's still going to be on the process side. So ideally try to keep it grain-free so you don't have all the extra gluten sensitivity connection with those.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That's what I was going to say too. Potato, rice, a lot of these things can still create problems for people. I've had many people feel like crap on some of these gluten-free breads. So yeah, it's still processed garbage, is my opinion.
Yeah, and then someone wrote in about the onions there. Onions are very high in FODMAPs, and that can be a problem. And so if you're had your gut feeling a lot better and you come back in and you're noticing FODMAPs are creeping into your diet and causing a lot more bloating, definitely kind of, rein that back in and see how much that kind of brings you back to homeostasis.
Yeah, this person told they said that they've had similar issues with cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and other similar veggies. So yeah, I mean, I would go more animal based. See how you feel with just some meat and some berries for a little while. Maybe if you tolerate a little bit of some organic pecans, if you want to do a little bit of nuts, but do like a bison burger and a handful of blueberries for lunch and see if you feel better. I suspect you will.
Yeah, at least just try, cutting out the higher FODMAP foods. Because when you address microbes, right, you starve it on one side with restricting certain foods that can feed it. You kill it with certain herbals, and then you crowd it out with probiotics. And so sometimes we have to go back to the killing side and killing the microbes out a little bit more. But I always just see how much the starving kind of works. Get the starving going again, and then if you have to kind of return to a protocol where we knock down the microbes with herbs, we can always do that too.
Yeah, and we've made these protocols a lot. It's really fun to combine and mix and match and get the synergistic effect of this herb plus that herb. I mean, that's where the magic really happens. And there is an art to this too. Like you said, when to cycle things on, when to cycle them off. So there's not just this one cookie cutter thing that you have to do. You really got to just work with the person. Certain herbs we use for certain parasites, certain ones we use for bacteria, certain ones we use for fungus. It depends on what you got. Most of the
Yep.
time, it's a combination of all these bugs.
Awesome. Hey, Evan, great podcast today. Hope everyone at home listening enjoyed it. Feel free to share with friends or family. Put your comments down below. Let me know what things that you guys have tried at home that have worked well or haven't. Really appreciate the conversation. Evan, have an awesome day, man.
You too. Take it easy.
Take care. Bye.
See ya. Bye bye.